Hello, everybody. Welcome to Picks or Players, a Dynasty Fantasy Football podcast with some betting stuff as well. Um, and I'm Chris Lewis. And today we're going to be talking about the Week 10 slate. Um, let's just get right into it. Uh, First game off, we got tonight the Ravens against the Bengals in Baltimore. The Ravens are 6-point favorites. And to be honest, I feel like that's pretty fair. I don't really expect Cincinnati to really have too much of a chance in this game, especially uh, since T. Higgins is doubtful. Um, Plus, their defense has just been pretty abysmal as well at times. They have a lot of injuries overall on this roster. And so I kind of expect the Ravens just to be able to really run the ball, not have too much of a hard time on offense. Zay Flowers has been so explosive recently as well. Um, so expect a decent game from him as well. But I do like Derrick Henry's over 18 and a half for carries. It's at plus 101. I think they're just going to be able to really feed him throughout the whole game. And if they have a decent lead, that should just lead him to get even more carries so they can give Lamar a necessary amount of rest kind of going into the mini bye after this game. But I do really like the Ravens this week. I think they have a very strong performance tonight. Um, and I wouldn't really expect a great game from the Bengals. They really just have Chase. He'll probably still have a good game, but and maybe Chase Brown will do something, but not really super confident about that either. But yeah, no, I like I like how this game looks for Baltimore, and that's pretty much it for that. Uh, Moving on to the Giants and the Panthers. This is a game that takes place in Germany. Um, the Panthers are 6.5 point underdogs against the Giants, um, coming off an upset victory against the New Orleans Saints. Even though the Panthers have shown some life, like I said last week, I thought that game was going to be close, and it was, and they ended up winning. Um, I think the Giants probably offer a bit more of a significant test offensively, especially because the Saints didn't really have Chris Olave for a lot of that game, and Shaheed's out for the season, so their passing game has really gone down the tubes since the beginning of the season. Um, but the Giants, to be honest, honestly have some good skill position talent right now. Neighbors has been very good this year, as well as Slayton and Wandale Robinson. So I expect the Giants to really be able to move the ball, even though I do think this will be a lower scoring game in general because of the quarterback play. I think that Neighbors and just the fact that the Giants are a little bit more well built offensively will serve them pretty well. Plus, I think there's a coaching edge as well. So I wouldn't really expect the Panthers really to win this game, but it still could be close. Maybe 6.5 is too many points, but I still expect the Giants to be able to pull away with this game and move on with their season. After that, we got the Patriots and the Bears in Chicago. Another 6.5 point spread. There's just a lot of really weird big spreads this week. It's kind of interesting, but um, I think that the Bears are like they need to win this game. If they don't, their season is virtually over from any standpoint. Caleb has not really played well, and I'm not really expecting that to really flourish in this situation. I don't really. He's not going to magically get better in one game, even though he's had some very good performances this year. Um, if anything, though, hopefully DJ Moore will be able to start getting more involved in the offense this week. He's been really struggling the past few games. His over-under's at 4.5 receptions. I kind of like the over just because you expect more from DJ Moore, even though he hasn't really been playing all that great. But the wide receiver core for the Bears has been very frustrating this year for multiple reasons, whether it be Caleb Williams or just the fact of Shane Waldron calling the plays, or just the fact that the receivers seem a little disinterested in the offense. Just as all these factors have really played for an inconsistent season for the Bears this year offensively. As far as the Patriots go, they have looked a lot better in recent weeks with Drake May now as the quarterback. He does seem like he has a lot of potential, but still, the Pats' passing game and offense is so abysmal. They really don't have very much at all. And the Bears' defense is very good. So I expect Chicago to really win this game, pretty much on the back of their defense and DeAndre Swift. Because outside of that, there's really not much going on there. But I hope that they get the passing game going. They really need to for their fantasy pieces. The Bills in Indianapolis. They're 4-point favorites. I do like them in this game. I think that's a fair line though. The Colts, like I said last week, they do have some decent weapons, and it wouldn't be shocking to me if they were somehow in this game. But Flacco really didn't play well last week, and the Bills are just such a good team overall. It's hard to really bet against them at this point. Josh Allen is playing some of the best quarterback in the NFL. However, I will still say that the injury to Amari Cooper is a little bit concerning, because their offense really hasn't had a lot of consistency in the passing game. It's just really Josh Allen has just made the best out of what he sees, and he's just been so intelligent with the football, not turning it over, using the running game when he needs to. He's just having such a phenomenal season. And I expect them to just be able to go on the road in Indianapolis and get business done. But yeah, this is going to be probably another weird game for fantasy. I'm not really sure how either team will do. I think it will be a higher scoring game, but overall, though, I'm not exactly 100% on that. Moving on, though. We got the Vikings and the Jaguars. It's expected that Trevor Lawrence is going to be out for this game, and Mac Jones will be starting. And to be honest with you, the Vikings haven't really been as impressive as they have been in the beginning of the season. Sam Darnold's starting to regress a lot, it feels like. But they're still getting it done because of the quality of their roster. That being said, though, I kind of feel like the Jags could surprise people in this game, especially given that Mac Jones is starting. It wouldn't be completely crazy to me if he beat the Vikings in a performance where he needs to just prove himself down the line, that he could still be a potential bridge quarterback for a team and get a second opportunity. And so that's kind of where I'm at. I think the Vikings are way too favored here. I could expect a shootout in this game, just given where the Vikings are as a team right now. They're not playing their best football. They're having to rely on so many other facets of their team and kind of dumb things down. So I think the Jags could be in store for an upset this week. But that's pretty much all I have to say about that game, though. It'll be interesting to see how Mac Jones performs with Brian Thomas Jr. and the other passing weapons. But I think he will be motivated and give their Jaguars a chance to win. Moving on from that, we got the Broncos at the Chiefs. Um, I don't really expect the Broncos to do much in this game either. I agree with the betting line. Um, Kansas City at 7.5 feels like a fair number. It's just that I have no real faith in Bo Nix to really be able to move the ball in the passing game against this team. The Kansas City Chiefs defense is too good, and it feels like the Chiefs are starting to kind of get their footing on offense, especially with the DeAndre Hopkins move. Him and Mahomes seem to have instant chemistry, and it just has helped out Travis Kelce get open in the offense a lot more. Uh, Hopefully Xavier Worthy can also kind of get going after his kind of poor receiving weeks the past few games. He's been very touchdown dependent for fantasy, but I still believe in him and I still believe in the talent. So I just think the Chiefs are kind of on the right track at this point, given that they've gone past the beginning part of the season, not playing all that well and still winning a ton of games. I think the Chiefs are in a great spot, and this game will show that. Kind of moving on from that, we got the Falcons and the Saints. The Falcons are 3.5 point favorites in New Orleans, which is kind of a surprising line given where the Saints were at in the beginning of the year. But I do feel like that the Falcons are on a good pace right now. I think this will be a higher scoring game because the Saints just have to get some things going on offense. Now that Derek Carr is back, I'm sure he will kind of help uplift his team offensively a bit more, and and kind of develop a lot more chemistry throughout this week with some of the receivers that they have remaining, which really isn't that many. But regardless, I think this will be a higher scoring game. I do expect Atlanta to win, maybe not decisively, just because that's just been their season this year. They've played a lot of close games. But I do have a lot of confidence in their offense and the fact that Kirk Cousins can have good chemistry with his receivers. This is going to be a game won by the passing. It could be a shootout, especially in the Superdome. But overall, yeah, I feel like the Falcons are just in a much better spot than New Orleans currently. It's tough to see how the Saints team has just completely regressed since the beginning of the year. After that, we got the 49ers and the Bucks. The Bucks are still so injured right now, and the 49ers are kind of in the opposite field there. They're getting so many guys back. CMC is expected to play this week, and with him back, the Niners offense can finally be at its peak form. Even though that Brandon Ayuk is out, it seems like Pearsall has kind of filled into his role very nicely. And Deebo Samuel should continue, and George Kittle too, of course. They should continue to be focal points in the passing game. Baker Mayfield is playing very well right now, despite his turnovers. And he could keep Tampa Bay in this game, but I just don't see them having enough to be able to, one, stop this Niners offense, and two, to really move the ball consistently against them. It's a pretty tough situation right now in Tampa Bay with everything that they have going on at the receiver position. But fortunately, after this game, they have their bye week, so we'll see where they look in Week 12. Moving on from that, we got the Steelers against the Commanders in Washington. Washington's a 2.5 point favorite. I think that's a fair line. This should be a pretty close game. Russell Wilson has done a decent job of leading this offense right now, and with Mike Williams in the fold, they should have an improved chance of being able to keep up the scoring against this Washington team. The Steelers have a good defense overall too, so I mean this is going to be a very interesting matchup to see where the Commanders are really at as a franchise. It's definitely, you would say, probably their toughest test since the Bears game, but that was also a very odd game in general because of the tipped Hail Mary. Um, they should have lost that game probably. I mean, not probably, definitely. Uh, but the Steelers have been one of those teams over the past few years. They're just so well coached, and they managed to step up in these kind of situations. So it wouldn't surprise me if they won, but I do think the Commanders will pull it out in the end. I just love how Jaden Daniels is playing right now, and I just think that from a offensive standpoint, they're a bit more talented than the Steelers team. Um, After that, we got the Chargers against the Titans in LA. This should be a comfortable win for the Chargers. It seems like they've really started to find their form on offense. I was definitely wrong about their offense going into the season. I didn't really think that they would have a very strong passing game given the receivers they have. But it looks like Quentin Johnson and Lad McConkey are really kind of coming into their own this year, especially after the terrible season that Quentin Johnson had last year. Lad McConkey seems like a great receiver for what they want to do. And Herbert's playing at a great level right now. They have a good defense as well. The Chargers are just overall a pretty solid team, and I don't see the Titans really giving them any trouble in this game. It could be more of a high-scoring affair, given where Rudolph has played this season. He hasn't been horrible, but he hasn't been great by any stretch of the imagination either. I think they'll be able to move the ball. Maybe like the over 39. That does seem like a pretty low total. But in general, though, I do think that the Chargers will win this game pretty comfortably, and perhaps kind of run up the score a bit, especially being at home. After that, we have the Jets and the Cardinals, and this should be one of the more exciting games of the week. The Jets are coming off pretty much their best game of the season, you would say, with Devontae and Garrett Wilson together now. And the Cardinals are frankly also coming off a really good game against the Bears. Both these teams are kind of in interesting positions. The Cardinals kind of oddly find themselves atop the NFC West standings, and the Jets are really in catch-up mode right now. I think this will be a very good game, though. I expect it to be pretty back and forth. I do like Trey McBride's over 5.5 receptions at plus 119. He is really the center of this Cardinals offense. They move the ball kind of around him in the passing game, and I just think that if this game is a back and forth, I don't want to say a shootout because of the quality of the defenses potentially, but I do think McBride is kind of where the Cardinals live and die right now in the passing game. So I expect him to get over 5.5 receptions this week, given that I think they will be throwing the ball a lot. He only had 3 last week, but that wasn't really a close game against Chicago. They were really able to kind of focus on just running the ball and keeping their team off the field. I don't really see that happening with the Jets. I think that Rodgers will continue to emphasize his chemistry with Devontae and Garrett Wilson. Those two are really the big moving factors of this Jets team. After that, we have the Cowboys against the Eagles in Dallas. There's really not much to say here. The Eagles should dispense of this Cowboys team pretty easily. Despite the Eagles and their flaws, the Cowboys just have 10 times more flaws. Not 10 specifically, 10 times more flaws. Like, there are just an embarrassing football team right now. Cooper Rush is starting this game. There's no reason to think that Dallas should win this game at all. But we've seen crazier things in the NFL, but I don't see it at all. Their defense is terrible. Their offense hasn't been consistent at all this season. CeeDee Lamb is potentially questionable for this game. And at this point, it's a kind of a it's not doesn't seem great that he's going to play. Doesn't seem like there's a great probability that he's going to play. So yeah, the Eagles should really dispense this team. Um, and yeah, no, I mean I can't really think of anything else to really say about it. It's like there's not. I mean, just fire up your Eagles. Hopefully they do well. Kind of like how the Lions did when they played this Cowboys team. Speaking of the Lions, we got the Lions and the Texans. This should be a very good game. I do like the Lions though a decent amount. I think that 3.5 is very fair. They'll be able to move the ball against this Texans defense in the passing game. I actually do like Jared Goff's over on completions. Houston can move the ball, but their offensive line has been one of the worst units in the NFL this season. It's given C.J. Stroud so much pressure. And we're not exactly clear if Nico Collins will be available for this game. If he is, I do think there will be a shootout element to it. The Texans do have enough pieces on offense to be able to play that type of game. But the Lions are just on such a good rhythm right now. The running game is dominant. They're not asking Jared Goff to do too much at all. But at the end of the day, it just doesn't really feel like that the Texans are at the same point that they were last year in terms of the rise of this franchise. But yeah, after that we got the Rams and the Dolphins. I do like the Rams in this game. They really are starting to kind of get on all cylinders again. Even though they didn't really have a great performance last week in Seattle, Stafford was still able to, really uplift to Marcus Robinson after Puka Nacua got disqualified in the middle of that game for what was a very soft call. And I'm even saying that as a Seahawks fan. But overall, though, the Rams, they're playing so much better right now than they were earlier in the season. And the Dolphins, even though I do like them as a team with Tua Tagovailoa, it just seems like it's so much to work out offensively right now. Tyreek Hill still hasn't, really broken out this season. And Jalen Waddle has also lost a lot of his explosiveness that he had in his rookie year for some reason. So, I mean, unless the Dolphins are really able to kind of unleash their passing game, I don't really feel all that confident about their chances in beating really good teams. This should be a great game, though. Devon Achane has been playing lights out with Tua Tagovailoa. And the Rams, are just so stacked offensively. This should be a great game to watch offensively, hopefully, but we'll see. That's just where I'm at, though, with the Dolphins. They've been very frustrating. So I like the Rams. But yeah, that's it for the week. Just to kind of go over the bets I have again this week, I have Jared Goff over 20.5 completions, and that is at minus 106. I also have Derrick Henry carries, and that is at over 18.5. Sorry, at plus 101. And then we got let's see, what was it? Oh yeah, it was Trey McBride over 5.5 receptions at plus 119. Yeah, like I said, I like those bets a decent amount. I just feel like those are low overs to kind of get in on for guys that are just so important to their team's success. But yeah, thanks again for listening. Sorry if it seems like I'm kind of not as energetic as I have been in some of the other episodes. I'm a little tired. It's been a long week. But yeah, I hope everyone's doing well. And I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Thanks again for listening.